Good morning. This is your friend and brother, Dr. Adigbite. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for always being here. So, yesterday, Chris Okafor stood on his altar in his church and apologized. For close to 1 hour, he went from one point to the other, giving different excuses for his behavior, going all the way back to his childhood, his very early years as a young man. He was pressured into getting married. He said a whole lot of things about his wife, made a whole lot of accusations, then went on to how he didn't have fathers to guide him, to mentor him, and then finally dragged his daughter into the apology. As a matter of fact, brought her to the altar and accused or challenged her to confirm or deny, all that she had said to VDM. That is the fact that her father allegedly, sexually assaulted her. He went on and on. At some point, he appeared to be crying or shedding tears. And towards the end of the apology, he went on his knees before the congregation and asking that they could choose to judge him or forgive him, and they should pray for him and all of that. So for close to 1 hour, Chris Okafor, did his best, to appear to be giving an apology. As a matter of fact, at the end of the entire drama, the entire congregation of the church stood up applauding, 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 and it will appear that the matter had finally ended. Interestingly, just a couple of hours afterwards, his wife was on live stream on another popular blogger's channel where she, began to attack him and began to, if you may, began to all that he has said on the altar, all of the allegations against the wife began to refute the allegations, and she began to reveal a whole lot more things that a lot of people did not even know, even before the apology was made. So, I mean, the videos are all over the place. As a matter of fact, I also have the full video of the apology on my channel, which of course you can check out, to have, the entire, the full details of how, of all that is said in the course of the apology. But what is my focus in today's video? My focus into this video is as regards the fundamental thing that was missing in all that Chris Okafor did, and how this reflects the general decadence, breakdown of values, and the general manipulation of the people, not only by people like Chris Okafor, but by the Nigerian political class. So in the close to 1 hour that Chris Okafor did all that he did, appearing to be apologizing, one thing was missing: accountability. Chris did not take responsibility for anything. As a matter of fact, at a point in the so-called apology, he did say that all that Doris had said were all lies, and that nothing of all that she has said is true. So if all that Doris had said were all lies, so what then are you apologizing for? Exactly why did you go on your knees? Why did you come before the people of God or your church to apologize? Why did you have to say all of those things? If indeed, why did you drag your ex-wife into the apology? Why did you bring your daughter into the apology if all that Doris had said were lies? If they were all lies, lies have a way, of being exposed. So why did you have to do all of that if all she has said were all lies? So Chris Okafor did not take responsibility for anything. Nowhere in the so-called apology did he, hold himself out as being responsible for anything. He held out, his background. He held out his past. He held out his ex-wife. He held out lack of fathers. He held out so many factors as the reason for his misbehavior. And he simply referred to the things that he did as I made some mistakes. And this is reflective of the general behavior of the elites within the Nigerian system. Chris' behavior of running away from accountability and responsibility reflects the behavior of the elites in always manipulating those who are under them to protect their own image. All that Chris was all about in that apology, which a lot of people have come out to refer to as fake apology anyway, was simply just to save his image, save his face, save his reputation, save his investment, save his church, save his interest by whatever means possible. Chris Okafor had no interest in apologizing sincerely. He had no interest in restoring all the ladies he had damaged. I mean, if we are to get into the nitty-gritty of what has happened, I mean, in the last 2 weeks, the entire nation has been inundated with stories upon stories, revelations, I mean, allegations, some which are indeed very dirty, very disturbing. I mean, crossing different lines, murder, rituals, name it, conspiracy, crime, fraud, and all that Chris Okafor had to say is that those things are not true, but in any case, he is sorry. Sorry for what? Ordinarily, in saner climes, in countries that have working systems, by now, people like Chris Okafor would have been apprehended by the police for all of these allegations. His church would have been sealed to safeguard and protect those congregation, those members, whether they are innocent or not, but at least to protect them, because that is the government's responsibility to protect lives and property, the welfare of the people. The church would have been sealed, Chris would have been arrested, and by now he will be under serious interrogation. The police will be conducting their own investigation to verify, the verity of all that Doris had said. Doris herself would have been arrested because she's also an accomplice in all of the crimes committed by Chris. Crimes involving conspiracy, to defraud people, conspiracy to seduce a blogger somewhere in South Africa. Receiving money through fraudulent means and all that. She had exposed the whole lot. By now, Chris will be behind bars, and the police will be preparing their charges to, bring him to court and all that. And with that ongoing, there will not have been room for any kind of, public show called apology. But because that has not happened, Chris has continued to manipulate, the people under him, his congregation. All he did yesterday was simply to again emotionally manipulate the people and try and curry their favor and seek their sympathy, which he knows, is something he can get because it is, a common thing with those who hold power, position, and influence in Nigeria. And to the other part of my focus in today's video. So, Chris's behavior reflects, the general tendencies of the Nigerian political class, those who run, the system in Nigeria. They commit an offense and then they apologize. Someone is caught having forged certificates, is exposed, having been caught red-handed, he then comes before the people and says he is sorry. Sorry for what? Sir, you ought to be on your way to jail. You ought to be in prison. Nobody cares about your apology. Your apology is not what will heal those who you have destroyed or damaged. There is no way a crime would take place. There is no way a misdemeanor would take place and someone out there will not suffer a loss. As a matter of fact, the greater loss is on the society whose confidence, has further been damaged. That loss cannot be repaid back by a simple apology. But this is what the Nigerian political class does all the time because they always have their way. They know how to manipulate the people emotionally. They know how to crawl their way back into the people's hearts one way or the other. All they need to do is kind of appear, to be remorseful. All they have to do is try to pretend to be remorseful. And people say, oh, he's a changed man. Oh, he's a better person and all of that. and sort of, that puts a lid on the matter and everybody carries on. Somebody steals money, is in government, is a minister, is a former governor, he steals money, running into billions of naira, monies that could cater for education, the healthcare, public infrastructure, social amenities of millions of people. People would have died because he stole money. People would have died because the money meant for drugs in the hospital were stolen. People would have lost their lives on the road because the money meant to fix the roads were stolen. But the person who stole the money, when he is caught, all he needs to do is come out and say, I am sorry. All he needs to do is behave like Chris, and just come before the camera, set up his show and say, I am sorry. And the moment he does that, an army of youths, rise up in his defense to say, wow, oh, he's sorry. Indeed, he's sorry. Nobody bothers to ask further questions. Okay, you are sorry, that is fine. But what of the money you have stolen? Return the money. Okay, you are sorry, that is fine. But the law says that if you do so and so, you would go to jail for 10 years. So you are sorry, but still go to jail for 10 years. That ought to be the way to go. You find a leader who has rigged an election, who has stolen power through the back door, and upon being sworn into office, he then says, "Oh well, I acknowledge that the election was corrupt, fraudulent. The election was below standard. Acknowledge, forgive me, I'm sorry." But he still holds on to the power and continues to use the power to oppress the people. He doesn't relinquish the power that he has stolen. I mean, if you say you are sorry, being sorry is supposed to be you acknowledging that you have committed a wrong and vacating the position so that the right thing can be done. So in Chris's case, being sorry ought to mean that you acknowledge that you are wrong, you have done all these things, you vacate your office as the pastor of the church, you let the church board step in, investigate the matter, you step aside for 6 months, a year, while the church board, investigate the matter. And when the board is done with the investigation, they will either exonerate you or they will affirm all the accusations against you, and they will recommend to the proper authorities what to be done. Maybe you should relinquish that position finally, so that the church can be protected, the people can be protected, the society can be protected, and the name of the country's image can be protected. But having soiled the country's image, having damaged the country's image domestically, regionally, internationally, people like Chris simply come out to say, I am sorry, and I expect that that should be the end. And so the lesson in this is to show that beyond the apology offered by Chris Okafor, there is a fundamental problem with the Nigerian society, with the setup. The collapse in value system is staggering and frightening. And that is why things are just the way they are. Chris Okafor's apology is a copycat of the same template that we have with the politicians, that we have with the business people, that we have with people who hold power, position, and influence across different sectors in the country. And that is why internationally the country's image continues to dwindle because of things like this. And let me say this before I end today's video. I mean, at the end of his so-called apology, one could see the entire church or the so-called people in his church, rising to their feet in a kind of, standing ovation, applauding, 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 applauding. Now, right there is a set of gullible, ignorant, timid people who do not know their left from their right, who are simply following a man and not following Christ and not doing what God's word says. Now, but this is the problem. Now, these same people who really cannot hold their pastor accountable, tomorrow will go to the polls to vote in elections. So I ask you, how will they use their votes? What is the mind with which they would value their votes? The same people who can clap and applaud a pastor who has committed such atrocities without them asking him a single question. How can they hold their political leaders accountable? How can they hold their House of Rep members, senators? How can they hold their governors accountable? How can they hold the president accountable? Clearly, we can all see where the problem is. The problem is very deep at the level of the leadership who manipulates the people, at the level of the people who themselves are ignorant, who themselves are no next nothing. They do not know their left from their rights. And you can't blame the people. You can't blame the people. Years of systematic, decimation of education in the system, years of systematic impoverishment, poverty by the ruling class has reduced the people to a beggarly population who live at the mercy of those who hold power, position, and influence. So you see, the average person in Nigeria lives at the mercy of the pastors, lives at the mercy of the imams, lives at the mercy of the governors, lives at the mercy of politicians, lives at the mercy of the rich folks, lives at the mercy of those who are in government, lives at the mercy of those who hold power, position, and influence. So to close this video, it is quite heartbreaking that all of the girls that have suffered in the hands of Chris Okafor, what becomes of them? What is their fate? How do those girls get justice? Aside from Doris Ogala, in the live stream expose that the ex-wife Besem Okafor, all that she said, it is clear that there are several girls out there who have, who he has fathered children through. That girls that he raped, sexually assaulted, they're out there. The recent one that Doris brought, the girl with the 2-year-old boy who actually carried out several abortions for him before the boy was born. What becomes of those girls? Who restores those girls? How do they get justice? Obviously, their lives have been damaged. How do those girls get restoration? Chris is married to his so-called new bride. Chris's church is still running, and so every Sunday he still has something to do. He still has people. He still has people who are following him in his church, who are calling him Papa. So practically, Chris is still living his life. Nothing is happening to him. So practically, what is happening is that Chris apparently, is about to get away with all that he has done, while those girls will remain victims for life. So they will continue to remain angry, dissolution, not only with Chris, but with their country, with the society that has refused to come to their help. So just thought to share with you my take on the Chris Okafor saga. Obviously, the matter is still ongoing, and it is clear that this matter has not come to an end. Thank you for your attention and for your time today. In this channel, we try to dissect national issues in Nigeria, in Africa, issues that affect the people in this channel. We try to speak truth to power. We try to call out those who hold position, power, and influence in the society. And in this channel, we try to provide a platform for those who do not have a voice. I encourage you to subscribe to the channel to help the channel grow. We just started, so we're trying to see how we can grow our subscriber base. The more people subscribe to the channel, the more the algorithm is able to see that there is engagement, and the algorithm is able to push the videos out there more. Also, drop your comments on what do you think. Do you think Chris's behavior reflects the general Nigerian syndrome, or do you think there is nothing to see here? It's all fine. So once again, please like the video, share to your friends and loved ones, and please subscribe to the channel. My name once again is Dr. Adegbite. I will see you in my next video. Thank you very much.